I'm gonna bring the attention to the other to this part, because this explains this, right? See the intersection that's like right here? Before I like really figured out how this intersection was gonna be, I had to like kind of think about it and figure out the layout of the intersection as a whole, so that I can draw whatever part that you see in the rendering. So this is basically what I did. I made like a diagram of how the intersection is, of how the different lanes were laid out, how I have like the different lanes, the turning lanes, the bike lanes, the crosswalks for the pedestrians, and like the way the vehicles turn. Now I'm going to be directing the attention to the other part of this drawing, which helped me come up with the overall concept of how the intersection was going to be laid out and designed. If I'm not mistaken, I believed I made this first. Or no, I think I made the main drawing first, but then when I started to go into the details with the intersection, I wanted to plan out the intersection on this page just to see how it would function as a whole, so that I'll be able to capture the, the small amount that you see. Now, what we see here, you see you have the corner, and then you have a bike lane going this way, a bike lane going this way. And then you can barely see like the crosswalk space. You can actually see it better if I turn it this way. Because in here you can see the planter, right? This is the planter. This planter is this planter right here, right? The corner of the sidewalk, this corner right here, is this right here, okay? I know there's a lot of moving around. But yeah, you see how you have the bike lane that is able to cross from one side of the street, have a dedicated crossing path over here, and it's protected. The only time the bikes would be facing like main road traffic, in a sense, would be actually crossing the street. But once they cross the street, the bike lane is protected by this sidewalk here. And this was the parking space that I was talking about, which could also be used as a turning lane in certain situations. It's like a flexible space. I also estimated the dimensions of how wide certain lanes would be. So 10 feet wide is, I guess, the standard for a lane on a road. Parking spaces, I've usually seen that they're 8 feet wide. This, I made it also 8 feet wide, so 4 feet that is able to be used for people getting off their cars and going onto the main sidewalk, and another 4 feet for the planters, for the small palm trees that we saw on the side here. So 4 feet here and another 4 feet here with the drain in the middle. Now, I wanted to give the road plenty of turning lanes also. So you have a right turning lane, you have 2 lanes that are going straight, which is like the main via going in that direction. And then you have another turning lane turning to the left. I wanted to give that amount of space just to make the flow of traffic be more seamless and smooth, so that turning vehicles aren't interrupting the flow of the main traffic going straight. So I was also thinking like maybe I could kind of go a little bit more into detail as to like what the whole road could be like on a long term, like on a longer, like a bigger scale. So I kind of want to do that just to like depict different scenarios. You can definitely see, yeah, now you can see what I'm doing. Cool. So I'm thinking you have a middle lane here. So these would be roads with a median. You'll have a median in here, which could also be used as a turning lane. And that median provides, you know, a barrier, obviously, between the two different sides of traffic. Because again, and then that median can house like plants and natural elements to just really, again, bring that balance between the different kinds of elements. So you can have it something more like that. You know what I mean? And then you can have, you know, trees planted there. Have a nice balance between trees and maybe even like street lights. Because you have these street lights over here, but these street lights, well, yeah, you can see it from here. The street lights are more geared towards the pedestrian level. So you can have another set of street lights in the middle of here, and the decoration can of course match that of what we have in the pedestrian, but it could be in like a bigger way that houses like, you know, bigger street lights, and it could be something like that. I mean, this is stuff that like I also got inspiration from like the Netherlands, for example, because the Netherlands, I noticed that they have dedicated bike lanes and sidewalk spaces. And it really gives that balance between the vehicular traffic and like the bicycles and the pedestrians. So that's another, that's like a big source of inspiration where I felt inspired by these ideas, like the Netherlands. Like you go to Amsterdam or whatever. I just looked on Street View. I haven't been there yet. Maybe one day I'll travel out there, see what it's like. That would be really cool. The bike lane, I think I said, yeah, the bike lane is 8 feet wide. Now, the reason why I made the bike lane 8 feet wide, and mind you, that's just one direction, it's not a two-way, is because if you're gonna have, you know, multiple people using the bike lane at the same time, some people are gonna ride slower than others. So you're gonna have people that's gonna wanna pass other people on the bike lane. So if there's like someone here that's riding slow, you can have another person over here that's riding a little bit faster that can pass this person, you know what I'm saying, without being in some kind of awkward space. And I feel like 8 feet is enough space. If you just have like a 3 foot wide, you know, bike lane, that would probably be like around here. That's only enough space for one person to take up the full width of the bike lane for the most part. So if you have more space, like 8 feet, you got plenty of space for people to pass each other. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically why I made it 8 feet. And these little smaller planters would be mounted into the concrete below it, and they act as a barrier between the parking and the bike lane. Physical barriers, like if a car crashes into one of these pillars, like not pillars, but one of these planters, it won't knock the pillar over because the pillar is built into the, into the concrete. So it acts as a barrier between the parking lanes and the bike lane. So it still offers that protection. So the protection that it won't get here from the planters, you'll have a curb at least, and even if you wanted to, you could add plants like those smaller planters on this side if we really wanted to do that. I'm thinking about bus stops. Maybe we could do the bus stop on this side, because if a bus stop is here waiting for the light, people who are trying to catch the bus can have at least a couple extra seconds to catch the bus, assuming that it's waiting at the light. And then once the bus comes here, it could come here, park in the space, and then go from there. And it's closer to the intersection than back here. In here you have more distance because of this turning lane here. So there's more distance between the intersection and the bus stop. But if you have the bus stop here, it would be closer to the intersection where people are able to navigate into the different areas that they want to. So we could do that. In the bus stop, the curb, the full width of the curb would be elevated to meet the level of the bus. And that would make it more accessible for people to mount on and off the bus. And with all these different planters and different trees, we're creating a sense of biodiversity too. So it's not just all one uniform tree. There's different trees that are being implemented here to give the streetscape more biodiversity, which is also good for the environment. Because when you go into a natural forest, you don't see the same tree repeated everywhere. You see a variety of different trees that are native to the area, and that creates the biodiversity that is needed in order to sustain that natural environment. So that's another benefit of using these different size planters and these different trees everywhere. It's creating that biodiversity. And then another idea on top of this one would be like but then yeah, you can have like little tables, round tables. I want to do round tables. I was gonna do square tables, but I want to do round tables. Or you could just even have like a long bench or whatever, tables, some chairs, right? An umbrella and shit. But that's just like one example of how the streetscape could be different in this particular scenario. So maybe while you're waiting for your bus, you could wait on that little bench that we got here, but you could also maybe just chill here for a little bit. Bring your laptop out, work on something while you're enjoying the fresh air. The trees and the shrubs provide shade. Okay. We're getting somewhere, yo. We getting somewhere. Look at that. It looks like a official like intersection. I'm loving this. I'm loving it. I'm loving how this is turning out. I just love it when I make drawings and it like the progress just comes and it's just so great. I love that. And it all just comes together. Sometimes what ends up happening is like the drawing just unveils itself as I go with it. You know, I have an idea of what it looks like in my mind, but the more I progress with the drawing, the more clearer the image becomes and the more the drawing just evolves with me as I draw it. And it's very interesting. I love it. What you end up happening, because hold on, because this is 8 feet, this is another 8 feet, so you have 16 feet worth of space right here where you could do anything. Tables and chairs, benches. You could even have like a little natural space, maybe where there's like little hammocks or something where people could just like lay down and chill, or whatever other public realm, you know, amenities that you could have. It could be anything. You have 16 feet worth of space in there, according to my dimensions. So you could do a lot in that 16 feet width. And then with that, chacho, you got mad space in there. So that adds to the streetscape. You're probably asking to yourself, this is what I love to do? Yeah, this is what I love to do. I love to do shit like this. I'm like in my zone right here, yo. I'm creating like our future, essentially. Like, this is what our street's gonna be looking like, yo. I'm claiming it right now. A lot of streets already look like this, to some degree. To some degree. You don't see this everywhere. The way I made it like this is like unique to how I figured it out. Like, you know, I drew inspiration from different sources, but I put it in a unique way that I made it. Yo, by the way, let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see in these kind of streets. Like, make it personal to you and your experience when you are walking on the street. What would you like to see in your local neighborhood, on your streets? Do you want to see more benches? Do you want to see more tables and chairs? You know, what would you like to see? Let me know in the comments. That way I can take those into consideration and come up with ideas on how to incorporate that into these kinds of layouts, into these roads, these streets, so that we can collectively build something. We could like make something, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make the ideas come to life. So definitely leave me feedback and let me know what would you like to see. All right. thinking like maybe I could have different layers of the drawing where I show how different aspects of life interact with this streetscape. So I could have a separate layer, right? I could go on top of it and show like, all right, the water goes through here and it, you know, waters the planters, and it travels, you know, the water goes through here and through this drain or something like that. And then I can have another layer where it shows like the pedestrian activity and the bike activity and the vehicular activity. Yeah, I like that. Okay, I like that. That's a good idea. That's what I could do. And again, it's okay if it's not exactly perfect. Like, this is a concept sketch, getting the idea out. We don't gotta worry about all that. When we do like a more final drawing, if we do that, then we can, of course, make it perfect as we can or whatever. In a presentation like kind of format. But right now, this is the concept. Like we coming up with different things. Hello. So I'm gonna show like this of how much space those trees would take. Yo, these fucking trees look crazy. They look amazing. I looked up on Pinterest real quick, like how to render like trees in plan view. And so I looked at a couple images and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I just did it here and I'm like, yo, this shit look, like I ain't even had to look back because like I've been getting a little bit better with drawing trees and stuff. So I just looked at the image like once and then I just started doing it. And I'm like, yo, I got this. I'm about to see like the palm trees. The palm trees, I mean, they look like palm trees, but looking at it from the top. All right, we got everything pretty much colored in. Finally, I got the drawing / diagram planned out. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain this for you. Mind you, it took me a while to do this, but we got here. All right, so. Okay, so in this diagram, the purple represents private vehicles, right? So those are like cars, people's, privately owned cars. The pink is representing in this diagram buses. So this is like the public buses, city buses. They have designated bus stops here. The orange represents people on bicycles. So you can see that right here. These are all bicycles that are coming here, crossing and moving forward. The blue represents people, pedestrians. So as you can see here, people are here crossing the street, walking along the sidewalk and the different areas. Of course, as you can see in the different scenarios that are throughout this drawing, some private vehicles are parked here on the side, some are moving, some are going into the turning lane, waiting to make a left turn, some are coming here to make a right turn. And basically what we're seeing here is the different scenarios and the different modes of transporting oneself from point A to point B. Now, in many car-centric cities, the priority is put on privately owned vehicles and not really such for pedestrians and bicyclists. That is the whole idea behind this design concept, is to diversify the modes of getting around in places that do not currently have those options. That is why in this diagram you see in this design, I incorporated the use of protected bike lanes so that bicycles can safely maneuver, cross the street in their designated path, and continue along in a safe space where they're not threatened or they don't feel, where they're not pretty much in danger's way of vehicles moving along. As you can see, even with parked cars, that you still have that barrier between parked vehicles and the bicyclists, so that if somebody is coming out of their parked car, as you can see in this scenario, they're not interrupting with the flow of people passing on their bikes. Same thing in the bus stop. The bus stop is also not interrupting the flow of the traffic going this way, but the people that are getting off the bus aren't interrupting the flow of the bike traffic as well. If they need to cross, they can cross when it is safe to do so. Additionally, we incorporated a lot of use of natural elements such as greenery, trees, planters in a different variety of ways. We also have, as you can probably tell, a lot of biodiversity. Now, of course, this is just, a concept sketch of what the trees may look like. But in this scenario, assuming that it's a tropical environment, because as you can see, we have lots of palm trees, we don't want to necessarily line up our trees with the same type of tree throughout. We want to include biodiversity. When you go into a forest, you don't see the same tree repeated over and over again, at least not for the most part. Usually you see lots of different kinds of trees, right? You see pine trees, oak trees, maple trees, whatever. Different kinds of trees, and it is those different elements, those different species of trees that make up the community of that ecosystem. And that is how the ecosystem is able to sustain itself with the biodiversity. Even when you look at the animal kingdom, there's however the animal kingdom interacts with each other in a particular ecosystem, you have different types of species of animals and insects and whatever the case may be in that ecosystem, and that is how the ecosystem is able to be balanced. So that same concept is being applied to this. It's to balance the different modes of transportation. It's to balance the different modes of getting around. I saw this, I think it was like on Pinterest or something, where somebody said we need to change the question when we're designing our streets. Instead of asking how many cars can we fit on the street, or how many cars can we allow to pass as fast as possible, change the question to how many people can we move on our streets. Because when we change the question to how many people, we're not just designing for cars. Now we're not designing for cars, we're designing for the people. Because at the end of the day, the people are the ones who drive the cars. And a lot of times what you see is when cars are driving on a street, it's usually just one person on that car, maybe two people. Sometimes, you know, the car is full, but a lot of times it's usually just one person in the car. And you can see how much space one car takes up versus a person, versus a bicycle. How many people can fit in one bus? I don't know, maybe like 60 people could fit on a bus. That's just like a estimate based on what I've seen, I think, in my research. But the question, again, goes back to how many people can we fit on the street? How many people can we move along the street in the most efficient manner? You know what I'm saying? And we're not trying to just completely eliminate the car either, because I mean, cars exist. They're gonna exist for however long they're gonna exist. But the point is to balance everything out, to diversify the modes of getting around, not favoring one over the other, but allowing all of the different modes to coexist so that we can have an infrastructure system that is able to efficiently and sustainably move our people around to where they need to go. So with that being said, this concept is not done at all. Like, let me tell you something, this drawing might be done the way it is, you know, and it's all, you know, it's all good, it's all cool, but this is something, design is constantly evolving. You know, I went over this in one of the other videos that I was recording. You will probably be able to see that segment where I was talking, where I literally went over this. Oh, it's not even in here. Is it in here? No, I took it off. It's over here. Where this concept, like, I could even, like, you know, expand upon. I can even expand upon this concept and make changes and edits to favor, you know, pedestrians. Because, you know, when you look at this, you kind of still see a lot of private vehicles. Now, mind you, this is more like a main street, because you can see you have 2 lanes going this way, 2 lanes going this way, and turning lanes. You know, so that's like 4 to 5 lanes for cars versus what you have here for people and bikes. But again, this idea can be updated, it can be changed. I was talking about the use of, oh, I like the way it looks like that. Okay, that's really interesting. You see, we could change this, or we can like evolve the design where, it might be backwards, hold on. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is how it was. Yep, because it aligns. Okay, you see, we could change, you know, the instead of it being a bus stop, we can make it into like a light rail kind of system, and we could kind of change this episode slightly so that we have like a little bit of space for like a station, and then the streetcar would be, or light rail, whatever you want to call it, would be sharing the lane with the traffic. And you know, in that sense, we would be prioritizing the light rail system and public transit, as opposed to prioritizing privately owned vehicles. But again, this idea could be expanded upon. What I intend on doing actually is, like I said, expanding this idea further. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this idea and these concepts and applying them to real scenarios that I perhaps observe throughout my everyday life. So for example, I could think of a few roads that I pass through on a frequent basis that are in dire need of some change and some, how can I say this? Some diversification of transportation, I guess you could say it like that, or just a need of a redo. And I have it pictured in my mind right now. And the way that I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna take screenshots of these particular thoroughfares on Google Maps, And then I'm gonna go over it using my laptop with like some, I don't know, just using like digital, you know, drawing tools. And I'll basically be able to do like the same thing that I'm doing here, but take this and apply it into a real life scenario, right? So that's what I'm gonna be doing. That is gonna be the continuation of this series, basically. And with that being said, that is the conclusion of this video. Thank you very much for watching today's video. The journey of creating this drawing and this diagram and this idea took several days, and I think it might have taken like a couple weeks going at it at the times that I had some free time. This is something that I really want to expand upon to make our quality of life in our cities, in our towns, more enjoyable and more sustainable and more healthy for us, and in a way that really serves the needs of everyone. So if you like this video, please give this video a like. Let me know your thoughts on this video down in the comment section. What did you like about this video? What would you like to see in the future? Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.